Network, now rock out.
What's up, Babyface King? Good morning, good morning. Happy Wednesday. Now, I had to rock the best Mystics jersey, which it took me a while to get, but I finally got it. That nice black, gold, and white. Of course, I got Brittany Sykes, Big 20, big Washington Mystic energy after that draft. Big energy for this season. But hopefully we don't have too many more issues moving forward with the rest of today's episode. But for everybody that is here, welcome home. Welcome home, welcome home. Today's episode is all about the WNBA draft, which happened on Monday night. I'll list out the top 10 picks, and then we will discuss each team, their roster, how the draft picks fit in, what their lineup is going to look like, kind of based on what's on the roster right now, which of course that is eventually going to change. So, we'll get there. All right. So, first round of the draft, Dallas picked Paige at number 1. Seattle had number 2, and they picked Dominic Malonga. She's from overseas. Washington had the 3rd and the 4th pick. We picked up Sonia Citron and Kiki. Golden State had the next pick, which they picked up Just Josite. Hopefully I said that name right. I apologize. Washington had a pick again. They picked up Georgia Amore. Connecticut picked up Anissa Morrow. Connecticut had the next pick, and they also picked up Sanaya Rivers. LA got Sarah Ashley Barker. Chicago picked up Sivka. She's from overseas as well. And then Chicago picked up Haley Van Lith. And then Dallas ended the round with Isaiah James. So that's all of the first round picks. Now, almost all the teams had at least one pick in the draft. Phoenix was the only team that did not have any picks in any round. Teams are not able to keep players. Typically, the 2nd and 3rd round picks don't keep a spot on the team. That's just the history of the league because of rosters being capped at 12 and then there being 13 teams. So that's not a lot of roster spots. Plus, for years, it was only 12 teams. We just got a 13th team this year, which is Golden State. So that opened up an extra 12 spots. But that still leaves a lot of players who don't end up on a roster by the time the season rolls around. Hopefully, with the new CBA after this season, we find a way to make rosters 15 instead of 12. At least I think 15 is a good number because we all know, injuries happen, and a variety of things happen throughout the season that they end up having to call players back anyway. So I feel like if we had it at a roster at 15, we wouldn't have to worry about constantly trying to find players if something does happen during the season. And then that'll also give teams more room to keep their draft picks and try to develop them even if they're not playing, but they're there just in case they need them. They'll be at practices. They'll be learning the system. And I think overall that will help the players and the league a little bit more. But we'll see if that happens. It's just one of those things. It'd be nice if they change the rosters to 15 instead of 12. But for now, the roster max is 12 for every team. With that being said, there's a lot of Dallas Wings. They had a number one pick. They picked up Paige Beckers, which is a great pickup for them because they needed a point guard. Because they have Enrique, who is a dynamic guard. She can score and she can carry the offensive load. But having Paige alongside her is definitely going to take some work and weight off her shoulders because they're going to have to guard Paige because Paige can score as well. She doesn't have to score, but she can score. So you can't just leave Paige and be like, we're just going to guard Enrique because Paige can rack up the points as well. So I think it's a great pickup for Dallas. Hopefully this creates some sort of consistency for them because over the years, Dallas has been that wild card team where they have the ability to look great, but then they also have the ability to look horrible. So hopefully putting that piece in creates some type of consistency for them to win consistently. They've always had a pretty good roster and can play really good. So we'll see how it changes when it comes to their record and then if they make the playoffs, how they perform in the playoffs. But looking at their roster right now, including the draft picks, they have 18. So by the time the season starts, that has to be down to 12. So they're going to have to drop at least 6 players. They just drafted 5. And I say, for me, the only definite is definitely Paige, because Paige is going to start alongside Enrique. Let's just be honest. The other 5, like, they're going to have to fight for a spot, and everybody else on the Dallas roster. So me looking at their roster, their starting lineup is going to probably be Paige at the 1, Enrique at the 2, Dejanay Carrington at the 3, Nalissa Smith at the 4, and probably Tierra McCowan at the 5. And so they also have Maisha Hines-Allen on their roster, Maddie Segrist, Ty Harris, and Kayla Charles. And the other rookies that be fighting for a spot was Isaiah Madison Scott, and then there's somebody else I could not figure out how to say their name. So outside of Paige, the draft picks are really going to have to fight for a spot on Dallas. They're going to have to go from 18 down to 12. And that's what I mean with, because of the roster space and the current players that are already in the league, it's very hard for teams to keep players outside the first round. There's just not enough spots. And we've been saying that for years. So we got 2 new teams coming in next season, which will add an additional 24. But like I said, hopefully at some point the league makes the roster 15 and not 12. At least that's my hope. But we'll see if that happens. But that's the story with Dallas. They got to go from 18 down to 12. Now, if they add any more training camp spots, that's even more players that they're going to have to eventually cut. So Dallas got some work cut out for them. But I think their starting 5 is pretty solid. It's just how they're going to want to fill in their bench after that. Who's going to be coming in to back up these players and give their players some rest, some quality rest, I should say that. But that's the Dallas Wings. And like I said, I think them picking up Paige is definitely going to help Enrique a lot, because Enrique typically has to work really hard for tough shots. Like, most teams are not going to give Enrique an easy shot. Every once in a while she'll get one, but most teams hone in on Enrique when they play Dallas. Having Paige play the point is going to make that a little bit harder for teams to do that defensively, because Paige can score. She can get to the basket. She can hit the 3. She can hit the mid-range. So I think that's going to make Enrique's game more efficient as well, because that's been a knock for Enrique for a while, is that she's not a very efficient player. She takes a lot of shots, blah, 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 blah. But I think them getting Paige is definitely going to help make Enrique a little bit more efficient, and then her not to have to work as hard for some of the shots that we all know she can hit. So it's going to be interesting to see them working together. So it's gonna be exciting. So Seattle had 4 picks in the draft. Their first pick, of course, was Dominic Malonga. She's from overseas, but she is very tall, very athletic, and has a ridiculous wingspan. So she's definitely going to be a great addition to their team. She would have been a great addition to any team, let's be honest. But Seattle got her at the second pick. Now, Seattle also has 18 players on their roster, including the draft picks. So they're going to have to go from 18 to 12, just like Dallas does. And so they're going to have some decisions to make. Because right now, based on their roster, their starting 5 is probably going to look something like Skylar Diggs-Smith at the 1, Erica Will at the 2, Jordan Horson at the 3, Nneka Ogwumike at the 4, and Ezzy Magbagor at the 5. Now, coming off the bench, they still got Nika Mule, Gabby Williams, Zia Cook, Alicia Clark, Katie Lou Samuelson. They got Lee Yuri. So they got a lot of players, and they don't have room for all of them. So it's going to be interesting to see who actually makes their final roster. They got to go from 18 to 12. So that's 6 players that they're going to have to cut between the players coming off the bench and some of their draft picks. Like I said, I'm pretty sure Dominique is safe. Their other 3 draft picks, not so sure. Their other 3 draft picks were Seattle, Serena Sundell, and Jordan Hobbs. So they're going to have to really, really fight for a roster spot. So it's going to be interesting to see what Seattle's final 12 is going to be based on that list of players. They got some pretty good players, so they definitely can fight with the other teams. But I think for me, it's going to be more so the chemistry and how they mix some of these players with different lineups. But that is Seattle in a nutshell. They're the second team. That's 18, and they're going to have to go down to 12. So we'll see how many of their draft picks actually make it onto the roster. Next up, we got my squad, the Washington Mystics. Listen, I was hyped watching the draft because we definitely got some players that I was hoping we would get, and we actually have the room for them. So that combo, getting what you want and also having the room for them, amazing. Because the first 2 teams, they got a lot of spots they gotta get rid of. They got a lot of players they're gonna have to cut because of spots. But with the Mystics, we actually had open spots on our roster. So I'm really excited to see how it all is going to shake out. But so the Mystics, of course, with our draft, we got Sanaya Citron, who's a guard, Kiki, who's a forward, Georgia Moore, who is a guard, got Lucy Olsen. I did not see what position she was. And then our last pick was Zay Green, in which, if you listen to my previous episodes, I told you guys we needed a guard, a point guard, really good guard. We have a ton of really good bigs, and we have a good guard in Brittany Sykes, but she's not a point guard. So we definitely needed a point guard to kind of bring all this together. As you know, we lost Cloud two seasons ago, and we never really found that other guard that could just, run the team on the floor. So I'm excited to see how our draft picks kind of come in and soak it all in and see how productive they are on the floor. But if you look at our roster right now, I don't have like the 1 and 2 nailed yet, but I'm pretty sure Sykes will be starting at the 3. Aaliyah Edwards probably started at the 4, and Shakira started at the 5. And on the roster, we still have Sika Kone, who's another post player. We got Shug Sutton, who's a point guard. Jay Melbourne, Emily Angsler, and Stephanie Dolson. So if you include our draft picks, right now we have 13. Washington Mission has 13 on their roster. So we're probably going to invite a couple people to the training camp. Maybe, maybe not. But sitting at 13, we're likely only going to have to cut 1 or 2 people. And I'm good with that. So I'm very excited to see what comes of the rookies and kind of our new coaching staff and see how we decide to play. But listening to the GM and the coach, they're looking to play up tempo, which I'm excited for. And we got players that are fast and they can run the floor. So up tempo would definitely suit the players that are on our roster. So I'm very excited to see how the Mystics play. And so we have a good chance that Sanaya and Georgia would get chances to start and play a lot. So we'll see how that shakes up during training camp, a few preseason games, and see how it looks and how everything runs. But we got a good chance of at least our 3 first-rounders definitely making the roster. The other 2, they got a fighting chance, but we'll see how things work out as well. But I'm very excited to see how our roster actually shakes up when it comes to the season. But like I said, we got 13, so we likely will only have to cut 1 or 2 people. So I'm very excited for the Mystics this year. Definitely going to get to a few games. But yeah, so Mystics looking good. They did great in the draft. Their first season, this was their first draft. So in Golden State is going to be interesting because they're going to be a mix of whatever they were able to scrounge up from the expansion draft. They only had a few picks to end the draft, and they're probably going to be pretty heavy in the free agency trying to get players as well. So their lineup was the hardest for me to try to come up with because the players are so all over the place. But we're gonna give it a shot. But Golden State drafted another international player, just Joe Sight. I'm not familiar with her. I couldn't find much, but that's one of their draft picks. They had 3 in the draft. They also picked up Caitlin Chen from UConn. And then, who was their second? And then Cheyenne Sellers. So they have a chance to, fight for a spot. It's funny because they're a newer team, but they also have 18 on their roster right now. And they're going to have to get that down to 12. But I think this team has the most room for, who's actually going to make it. Their roster right now, they have Stephanie Talbot, Timmy, Veronica Burton, Julie Van Loo, Alyssa Konani, Letitia Amihir, Kayla Thornton, Tiffany Hayes, Kate Martin, Monique Billings, Chloe Bibby, and their 3 draft picks. So right now, I have their starting lineup is probably Julie Van Loo at the 1, Kate Martin at the 2, Tiffany Hayes at the 3. I wasn't sure about their 4, and then 5, Monique Billings. So probably Kayla Thornton at the 4. She could play the 3 or the 4 depending on the lineup. But theirs is definitely the most up in the air as far as who their lineup is going to be, but also who's actually going to make the roster. So with them being a whole new team, it's going to be interesting to see what type of team they're trying to build, how they're going to run offensively and defensively. So, like I said, they got to go from 18 to 12, so they're going to have to cut a lot of players too. So, the trend here is at least about half the teams in the league are going to have to cut a lot of players. So it's going to be a rough couple weeks for some of these players. But that's Golden State, the new team. Next on the list, we have Connecticut Sun. The first team to start a season with a whole new starting five. Everybody that was on their starting five last year is on a whole nother team this season. That has never happened in the league. So Connecticut will be interesting. But it's weird because they're still not technically starting over. Like, if you hear that, you think, oh, a team is completely starting over. They're still technically not starting over because their roster is still good. It's just completely different than what it was at the end of last season. So it's definitely going to be interesting to watch. But Connecticut had 3 draft picks. They got Anissa Morrow, Sanaya Rivers, and Raya Marshall. So that's their 3 draft picks. So those 3 draft picks bring their roster to 19. That's the highest number that I have. They have 19 people on their roster, and that's going to have to get all the way down to 12. So, to me, the one pick that is probably safe is Anissa, just because of how hard she works on the court and her work ethic, her attitude, how she approaches the game. It's very unlikely that she wouldn't make the team. But looking at the roster, I was still trying to figure out. Okay, so their 1 is probably going to be Lizzie Allen. 2, Marina Mabrey. At the 3, Diamond DeShields. At the 5, Tina Charles. Couldn't decide. And then probably at the 4 will probably be Olivia Nelson-Adota. So with those 4 and 5s, Anissa would probably come off the bench. But she can fight, so I wouldn't be surprised to at some point see her in the starting lineup, to be fair. I wouldn't even be surprised. But like I said, they have 19 people on their roster right now. That's going to have to get down to 12. So that's 7 players they got to cut. 7 players that got to be cut before the season starts. That's a lot of players, y'all. That's almost a whole nother roster. So we got LA. Alright, so LA had 3 draft picks as well. Their draft picks, their first pick was Sarah Ashley Barker. And then they got Sanaya Fagan. And their last pick, King. So that brings their roster to 18. So if you've been listening, a good chunk of the teams have 18 on their roster, and they're going to have to get down to 12. Now, my projected starting lineup for LA, based on what's on the rosters, not including the draft picks, got Kelsey Plum at the 1, Odyssey Sims at the 2, Rakia Jackson at the 3, Azrae Stevens at the 5, and probably Ray Burrell at the 4. Now, they still have Cameron Brink, but she probably won't be back at the start of the season. So she'll be probably still on the injured list. They said she's probably not going to be back until June. And the season starts in May. So they'll be playing. She'll probably won't be back for until about a month in. But she is still on the roster. So that's going to shake things up a little bit as far as their post players as well. But that's what it's looking like. I think the addition of Kelsey Plum is definitely going to help them offensively kind of reel the game in, because she can be like a calming yet a factor that kind of pulls everybody in when they need to, get a bucket, setting it up and doing all that. So I definitely think that was a good pickup for them. I'm expecting Rakia Jackson to have a great second season. She's been working. She's only going to get better. I'm excited to see Cameron Brink back. Definitely want her to get back in the groove. She was playing great before she went down, so I'm excited to see her come back and play as well. So LA is going to be interesting. We'll see how the chemistry works. They got Hamby, who's also another vet. Her and Plum used to play together in Vegas. They won a championship together in Vegas. So we'll see how the full chemistry works out with the players and how they put them together on the court. That's LA. They got to go from 18 down to 12. All right. Next up on the list is the Chicago Sky. Chicago. They've been having a rough go the last couple years. After that championship run, like, I don't know what the heck was going on with Chicago. They've definitely had a couple good drafts, but things was going crazy within the organization with certain players. Like, it was wild. But with this new coach, who is known to be a great coach, we'll see how things shape up in Chicago. So we'll see how things actually plan out, because all the great things have been said about him and what he does and how he deals with players. So hopefully this is a turning point for Chicago, and this looks good for them as a organization. So hopefully things turn around for them. But right now they have 17 on their roster. They had 4 draft picks. Their first pick was Sivka, which was as an international player. She did not play in college. And then they got Haley Van Lith, which is being reunited with Angel Reese. They both played together at LSU before Angel Reese graduated, and then Van Lith transferred to somewhere else. So they'll be reunited. So that'll be interesting. And then they also picked up Maddie Westbeld and Aisha Kalalabi. I might have said that wrong. I do apologize. But that puts their roster at 17. So they're going to have to cut 5. Not as bad as other teams, but it's still up there. And what I have right now as a potential 5 for them is Courtney Vandersloot at the 1. I have Atkins and Rebecca Allen starting, but they could be 2 and 3, however they want to put it in the lineup. At the 4, you got Angel Reese, and then at the 5, Cardoza. That's how I see it. I have no idea what the new coach is going to do with their lineups, but their other players are Elizabeth Williams, Mariah Jefferson, Kia Nurse, Michaela Onuere, and Rachel Banham, and then of course the draft picks. So we'll see how their roster actually ends up being. Like I said, they got to go from 17 down to 12. That's 5 players they're going to have to get rid of. And they got 4 draft picks. And I'm pretty sure maybe 2 of them may end up on the final roster. We'll see. We'll see how they fight it out. But that's how Chicago is looking, y'all. Whew. Next on the list, we got Las Vegas. Las Vegas had 2 draft picks, and they were in the 2nd and 3rd round. And their first one, they got Aaliyah Nye, and then they got Harmony Turner. So that brings their roster to 16. So they're going to have to cut 4. If they get any more training camp contracts, they're going to have to cut more than that. But right now, as it stands, they're going to have to drop 4 players. And looking at their roster, this is how I see their first 5 is Chelsea Gray at the 1, Drew Lloyd at the 2, Jackie Young at the 3, Queen Egbu at the 4, and Asia Wilson at the 5. And the rest of their roster is Kirsten Bell, Tiffany Mitchell, Crystal Bradford, Dana Evans, Megan Gustafson, Cheyenne Parker Tyus, and Kia Stokes. Now, Cheyenne Parker Tyus just announced, I believe, that she was pregnant. So I don't know if they're going to have her available. So that may be one additional spot that they have. But we'll see. But that still puts them at 16 on the roster. And they got to get down to 12. So at least theirs isn't as bad as some of the other teams. But they're still going to have to drop 4 players. So we'll see how things shake out. Like I said, I'm pretty sure the 5 is solid. After that, they're going to have to duke it out. Just like every WNBA season. But that's the on the list is Minnesota. Minnesota Lynx, y'all. Minnesota Lynx had 3 picks in the draft. Let's see. And their first pick was Anastasia Kosu. And then they picked Delia Daniels and Aubrey Griffin. Those 3 picks bring their roster to 18. So another team with 18 on the roster and got to get it down to 12. Looking at what's on their roster, their starting 5 I project to be. The hard thing is picking out who's going to be the point guard. Because I'm not sure where they are with Donovan Miller, but I know she can play the point. So Donovan Miller at the 1. Courtney Williams at the 2, Kayla McBride probably at the 3, Alana Smith at the 4, and Carlier at the 5. And then the rest of their roster, you got Natisha Heidemann, who can be a backup point guard, and you got Dorka, the post player, Grace Berger. They still got Alyssa Pitley, and they just got Carly Samuel in a trade with Washington. So they got shooters too. So it'll be interesting to see how their roster shakes out. So they're going to have to drop 6 players. So I'm not really sure too much about their draft picks. So they're going to have to fight it out for one of those spots with some of the backup players. And we'll see how that goes over the course of the preseason games. Because each week, players will start to trim their rosters, so we'll see who starts getting cut in the next couple weeks. But that's Minnesota. They got to go from 18 to 12. So we'll see how. Next on the list, we got Atlanta, and they had 2 picks in the draft, and they got Pow Pow from South Carolina, and then they picked up Taylor Theory. So, their roster, similar to the Mystics, they had the more room than most other teams. So, including their draft picks, their roster is at 14. So, theoretically, they're only going to have to cut 2 or 3 people, depending on who they invite to training camp. So, looking at their roster, their starting 5 I had as Jordan Canada at the 1, Brian Howard at the 2, Alicia Gray at the 3, Nia Coffey at the 4, and Brittany Griner at the 5. So they're going to be an interesting team because we're going to see how Gray and Howard work alongside Brittany Griner. This will be Brittany Griner's first season in Atlanta. So it's going to be interesting to see how they run their offense, adding her to the roster. But I think it's going to be good. But it's going to be interesting to see how that chemistry works. The rest of their roster is Naz Hillman, Haley Jones, Brianna Jones, Shatroy Walker-Kimbrough, and Maya Caldwell. So, as I said, they're probably going to have to cut 2 or 3 people, as they only have 14 on their roster right now. They may invite more people for training camp. We'll see. But they definitely don't have to make as many cuts as the other teams do. So, that'll be interesting. Alright, next up we got the Indiana Fever. Ooh, they did a lot of work in free agency before the draft. They had 3 picks. Their first pick was Michaela Timpson. Their second pick was Bree Hall. And then their last pick was Yvonne. And so that brings their roster total to 15. So they're going to have to cut 3 to 4, depending on who else they're looking at from either free agency and so forth. But right as it stands right now, they will have to cut 3 to 4 people. But projecting their starting lineup, I have Caitlin Clark at the 1, Kelsey Mitchell at the 2, DeWanna Bonner at the 3, Natasha Howard at the 4, Aaliyah Boston at the 5. That's my projected 5 for Indiana. To round out their roster, they have Sophie Cunningham, Lexi Hole, Brianna Turner, Demiris Dantes, Sydney Colson, Jalen Brown, and their draft picks. So I'm pretty sure their 5 is solid. The 3 draft picks will just have to fight it out with the rest of the people on the roster. And so the next few weeks, we'll start to see some cuts and kind of see what their 12 is looking more like. But I don't know, out of their 3 draft picks, who could make the roster, but they might get cut. We'll see. All right, 2 teams left. Got New York. New York Liberty only had 1 draft pick, and they have 18 on their roster. We got to get that down to 12. So they're going to have to cut 6 people. But looking at their roster, I have their 5 at Natasha Cloud at the 1, Anescu at the 2, Johannes at the 3, Stewie at the 4, and Jonquil Jones at the 5. The rest of their roster, they got Jalen Sherrod, Makisha Davis, Rebecca Garner, Nayara Sabali, Phoebich, Isabel Harrison, Kennedy Burke, Benaja Laney Hamilton. So, and I think Benaja is out the beginning of the season because she just had some work done. So she's going to miss the beginning of the season. So I don't know if that gives them a little bit more room or not. But we'll see. But New York Liberty right now, roster's at 18. They got to get it down to 12. So that's at least 6 players they're going to have to cut. They only had 1 draft pick, but that does not mean that she will necessarily be on the final roster. If you've been paying attention every year, those cuts before the season just hurt more and more because it's usually not because the player wasn't good enough. It's just a matter of spots, a matter of fit, and what the team needs for them to accomplish whatever their goal is for how their offenses run, how their defenses run, team chemistry, how the players are fitting with each other. So the cuts get hard after the draft because realistically, especially the 2nd and 3rd round picks, they're not guaranteed a roster spot. They're just not. And so they have to fight it out. And if they don't make the roster, they still have to stay relevant, stay in shape, stay in the focus, and stay in the eye of the league because as we know, injuries happen, things happen, teams have to pick people up throughout the season. And so it could be a hard journey for especially the 2nd and 3rd round picks. But so we'll see who all actually ends up on the roster. The last team is Phoenix. Phoenix did not have any picks in the draft. They're the only team that didn't have any picks. And right now, as it stands, their roster is at 16. And so they're going to be interesting. They did do some pickups in the free agency, but they lost some pieces as well. And so it was kind of iffy for me to try to figure out what their lineup was going to be. But from what I can see, I have Celeste Taylor at the 1, Kalia Copper at the 2, Satu Sabali at the 3, Alyssa Thomas at the 4, and Kalani Brown at the 5. Now, what's interesting is Phoenix is entering in a new era. This will be their first season since Tarazi retired, and they won't have Brittany Griner. That was 2 key pieces of the Phoenix Mercury for a long time. And so, in a sense, their identity is shifting. Just like Connecticut's identity was shifting, Phoenix identity is shifting. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of who they build around, who they focus on, and what type of offense they're going to run, what type of defense they're going to run. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this team shapes out. The rest of their roster is Natasha Mack, Shyla Hill, Alexis Prince, and Sammy Wickham. So they're at 16. They're going to have to drop 4 and get down to 12. But it's not going to be as bad as some of the other teams who have 18 or 19 on their roster. Like, a lot of these cuts is going to hurt as a player and as a team. But like I said, a lot of these players that get cut, it's not because they're not good enough. It's just simply fits for that team, roster spots. And so they're going to have to stay ready, stay in shape, stay around the players, stay around the league. Because as we all know, throughout the season, stuff happens. People get 10-day contracts or whatever. So they're definitely going to have to, stay positive and keep moving forward. But that is all 13 of the teams' current rosters, their draft picks, what their team outlook was looking like. Hopefully that helps anybody, no matter who your team was. I tried to cover every single team and who all they got and what's going on. So hopefully that helps somebody either decide who they want their team is or kind of see where their team stands. Like I said, I'm excited for the Washington Mystics. I think we did fantastic in the draft. I can't wait to see what our 12 looks like, and I can't wait to see us play an up-tempo offense, which I think is going to work out well because we have really good defenders too, which can lead to fast breaks and a quick offense. So I'm very excited to see my Mystics, but I think it's going to be exciting for a lot of the other teams because their rosters look good. So we'll see how they actually all come together. So I think overall it's going to be a very exciting season. So I'm excited to definitely stay tuned. If you're not hitting that follow or that subscribe button, please do so. I appreciate all the support. And as again, if you guys have players, leagues, coaches, anybody in the women's sports world that you want to see covered, leave them in the comments. Like I said, we're going to cover a variety of sports, a variety of levels. So if you have suggestions, definitely pop them in the comments. Appreciate you guys supporting as usual. But that is going to be it for today. WNBA season is about a month away, so definitely get yourself ready. Get your gear, whatever you need to get, as a jersey, a shirt. Get the WNBA League Pass, whatever it is. Definitely, let's get this ball rolling. Welcome home, and Lady Blue Flames. Our goal is to educate, appreciate, support, and promote women's sports. The goal of this channel and this community: educate, appreciate, support, and promote women's sports. So if you are here, that is part of your goal as well. Welcome home. Let's get it.